Local television network TSPN. And now TSPN News with Tom Slivick. Comprehensive news because in today's world, you need more than just sound bites. TSPN streaming on the World Wide Web and now on demand at TSPN TV.com. Hi everyone, I'm Tom Slivick and welcome to TSPN's News for Today. Today I have with me District Attorney Todd Riebe.
How you doing?
Thanks for joining us today, Todd. And for people out there, they know that Proposition 47 passed. It's the law. It's I'm not sure. I almost want to feel like everybody had to be asleep or something when they said fine. It sounds like a good idea to me. And we're going to be talking about that when we come back, because we're going to go to this break, and then I'll be joined by Todd Riebe, and we'll be talking about Proposition 47 and how it's affecting us. Stay with us right here on TSPN. You're watching Amador County's #1 news and sports leader, TSPN.
Giving season's here, the Jackson Rancheria. Donate your points, earn and win, cash and free slot play. Oh, giving season, giving all your points. Food banks, charities, helping those in need. Giving season, giving all your points. Oh, what fun it is to share, to show you really care. Donate to food banks and charities helping those in need. Giving Rancheria style.
Hey!
Hi everyone, Tom Slivick, and welcome to TSPN's News. And today we have Todd Riebe. Todd, District Attorney here in Amador County, and we're going to be talking about Proposition 47. You know, sometimes when I read 47 and think about it and what had happened, I'm still scratching my head from wondering how that ever could have passed. I mean, and you have to say, in some ways it sounds like a good idea. People feel like, my gosh, the jails and everything are just full of people that's like, the economy, they had a marijuana seat or something, and they're in prison for that, and that's really probably not the case. No one's going to go there the first time. No one's going to go there for that. So the picture painted seems to me like probably wasn't painted very well to like what the real problem was. And off camera I asked Todd, was there just no money to educate people about what would happen with 47?
Well, that was the big reason. The funding that came for the people in favor of Prop 47, primarily from George Soros, billionaire, gave $6 million to this effort. The teachers' unions, the AFL-CIO, the teachers' unions gave because there was the prospect that some of the money would be earmarked for truancy reduction programs. And they're good things. I'm on support an organization that sponsors truancy reduction programs. Nobody's going to argue that they're a bad thing. It's just that linking it up with this thing, Prop 47, which endangers public safety. It makes it more difficult to keep the streets safe. Not a good idea. And every time that we were able to go to the voters, whether it be Sheriff Ryan and myself, and then like kinds of alliances in counties across the state, when we were actually able to get to the voters one-on-one or in outlets like this or in op-ed pieces in the paper, we could convince them, and if we had the money, we would have been able to, I think, defeat this thing. We just didn't have it. We are an advocacy organization, the CDAA, California District Attorneys Association, the California State Sheriff's Association, similar. We don't have the money to toss around to defeat these kinds of things, and that's ultimately what happened, is that you saw all these commercials and there was no return volley because we were not able to. Primarily it was through social media and it was also through the papers. A lot of the papers, in fact, you'd be surprised how many papers did come out and say this is a bad thing. We've been convinced that this is not good for public safety. And to her credit, Dianne Feinstein stepped forward.
Yes, she did.
We tried to get Governor Brown to. We wanted to get a campaign going like we did with Proposition 66, which sought to weaken the three strikes earlier, 2006, I think, elections. And in that case, we were able to get Governor Schwarzenegger, we were able to get every living governor stood up and said that that was bad for public safety and bad public policy. We wanted to get the same thing going here, but we just couldn't get it going.
That's some strange people that, to me, when I read this, that came out for it. Newt Gingrich, I believe he was basically saying, in Texas it worked, it worked pretty good in Texas.
I would love to sit down with Newt and explain to him how it's working in California. I think he'd be enlightened.
And Senator Rand Paul, which basically, if I go down the list of people, those are about the two R's, the only Republicans that seem to, that jump out, that jump right out at you. But when you go to the organization, American Civil Liberties, California Democratic Party, these are people that were supportive of it. Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, and Victim Survivors, Life After Uncivil Ruthless Act, Alliance for Californians for Community Empowerment, Civil Liberties Union, Association of Alcohol and Drug Program executives seem to me like they might feel like there's some money coming their way here, and a Children's Defense Fund from California. Some of them, we can keep going, but the unions, the AFL-CIO, SEIU, California Federation of Teachers, Labor Federation, California Teachers Association, California Catholic Conference of Bishop, Bend the Arc, a Jewish Partnership for Justice. In some ways it does seem to pull at your heartstrings when you feel like, well, people are locked up for a long period of time. But you're a prosecutor, and some people have served on jury duty or them jury. You just don't get into prison for sneezing or something.
Particularly now,
that.
with the refinements that we have to Prop 36, to three strikes laws, such as Prop 36. It's very rare occasion that I get a referral from Mule Creek State Prison, because I handle all the Mule Creek State Prison referrals for our office. It's a very rare instance now where somebody doesn't have a strike. They almost all have strikes, and a lot of them have mental health issues to boot. And I handle all the Prop 47 petitions that are coming to the office, and every day I wade through about 2 feet of them, the files and everything.
Okay, so let's explain that a little bit.
And then I give a response.
Once the law is passed, and it is passed, it's a law, so we're just explaining, trying to say how we're living with it. I had read in some of the things that, the people maybe in your office who is getting the calls for that, they're getting like 200, 300 of them an hour I'd like to get my sentence reduced.
Oh, yes, we're getting these petitions from everywhere. We're getting them from individuals without attorneys. People are walking in there. They have relatives that will walk in and give us a petition. We're getting petitions from the Public Defender's Office. We're getting petitions from other defense attorneys in Calaveras and surrounding communities for cases, some of them old, some of them they're still serving their sentence. They're either in jail, they're in prison, they're in county prison, they're on probation, they're on parole. So we're getting petitions from all these cases. I then go through to determine whether or not, according to the law, Prop 47, whether they are entitled to relief. Should the petition be granted? Sometimes, no, it won't be. I'll get somebody who is convicted of stealing a car or temporarily depriving an owner of a car, 10851 of the Vehicle Code. That's not one of the crimes that was listed in Prop 47, so they're not entitled to relief. Sometimes they've been convicted of receiving stolen property, and the property is more than $950. So again, they're not entitled to relief. So you have to go through and reopen those cases
some
up
things
and take a look at it.
seem to me just somewhat incredible if you think about it. Like if you would write a check to a business down there on Main Street, and write it for $999, and bounce a check, what, you get a citation? What would happen with a citation? Just to follow that crazy thing a
If
bit.
that check is under $950, it's a misdemeanor.
950 then, okay.
Yeah, 950. So it ratcheted up what the amount was from previously, I think it had been $400.
It wouldn't matter if a person had done that, like, this is they have an MO, this might be the third time they've done something like that, or what
No,
would
it doesn't
happen?
matter how many times they did. They could go down the block, and they could do it to every business on Jackson Main Street, as long as each time that they did it, it was under $950. It's a series of misdemeanors.
That seems so strange. I wonder how a person could write something like that. If you could, if you would break into someone's house, steal a handgun, or somehow get a hold of that and have a gun. And if it wasn't, most guns don't cost over $1,000.
No, most handguns in particular are under $950,
Right.
and that was one of the things that Sheriff Ryan and I were most concerned about, is that you enter somebody's home or you enter a business and steal a gun. That's a pretty hardcore criminal behavior, and that was a strict felony. It was not a wobbler. It was not something that could be reduced to a misdemeanor. But if that gun is valued at under $950 under Prop 47, it can only be a misdemeanor, no matter how many times you've done it in the past.
Well, what would happen if you had a handgun and maybe you got one from your grandfather or something like that, and it's not registered? I mean, what kind of crime is that? Is that a crime?
Well, if you have
I'm only wondering if a person that has one but he didn't steal it, but somehow it's not registered, is that like worse than the person who stole it?
Well, we get those cases occasionally, but for the most part, we're dealing with people that are not allowed under the law to possess weapons, but
Okay.
they have weapons. People that have stolen weapons or in possession of weapons that have been stolen, however they procured them. So those are the kinds of cases.
I just want to ask you, rather, and maybe a swift answer or whatever. We're going to take a break then, but who wrote this law? Who is it that wrote the law?
I'm sure it was probably not the people that they said wrote it. I'm sure it was probably some law professors somewhere. But who took credit for it were George Gascon, the district attorney in San Francisco,
Okay.
Jeff Rosen, the district attorney in Santa Clara, and there was another supporter. Only 3 of the 58 DAs supported this, and no current sitting sheriff supported this. But
So where the rubber hits the road, basically, no one liked it. That had to work with it.
nobody who had to work with it.
No, has, who,
the
in other words,
police
it's
chiefs-
basically charged with,
Yeah.
the safety of the citizens.
Police chiefs are against it. The judges that saw the success of drug courts, they were opposed. The sheriffs were opposed. The DAs, 55 of them were
Let's
opposed.
come back, Todd, and then we'll talk a little bit about how this affected drug court, okay?
Yeah.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
You wanted us closer, so we moved to Jackson, the heart of Amador County. Now bigger and better, Foothill Firearm Supply carries handguns, rifles. Hi everyone, and welcome back. We're talking about 47 and its effects here in California. And with me is District Attorney of Amador County, Todd Riebe. And Todd, thanks again. And Todd, tell us about a lot of these crimes. Actually, tell us just what are the 8, before we get there, what are the 8 crimes you almost have to do in order to be a felon?
They're commonly referred to by prosecutors as super strikes. The California Penal Code lists in 2 provisions all the violent and serious felonies, which we know as strikes. Only a select few, only 8 of them, representing less than 10% of all the strikes that are available,
Right.
can exclude you from Proposition 47. Those are your sexual molestations, your murders, including attempted murder, solicitation to commit murder, any sexually violent offense, assault on a peace officer with a machine gun. If you assault them, and we've had a case like this where they weren't excluded. I just saw it the other day. This guy assaulted 3 correctional peace officers in El Dorado County, but he had a handgun. He's not excluded from Proposition 47 because he didn't use a machine gun. It makes no sense to me, but that's the law. And possessions of mass destruction or any serious or violent felony that's punishable by life in prison or death. So if you haven't committed one of those, you're eligible for Prop 47.
Okay, the other strange thing is, why don't we get someone into the drugs? Like, I guess it's the drugs you take, you take for yourself for recreational purposes, whatever, And then date rape drugs, which to me, that's not included as a felony. And yet that's something that you probably wouldn't do for yourself, if you know what I'm saying. Unless you probably use that for date rape.
That's impacted by Prop 47, and those would be strict misdemeanors.
Okay, so that's not considered bad enough.
No.
Okay.
Your sales of narcotics are excluded under Prop 47, but your possession, those offenses, possession of cocaine,
That's what I mean.
possession of methamphetamine.
Well, who would have thought of that? Like, you can
Possession
sell
of
it,
date rape.
but you can't have it. Now,
Well,
I guess if you have in your possession to sell it, that's okay, but if it's...
To be fair, I think the thinking was, and there is a category of offenders, felony offenders, that have been knocking around for a while now with possession of methamphetamine, possession of cocaine, possession of large amounts of marijuana, and they don't necessarily graduate or haven't been convicted of other offenses. I can tell you, since I'm going through all these petitions, that is the exception. That is not the norm. Most of the time what I see is a multitude of different kinds of felony convictions, many of them violent, spousal abuse, robberies, first-degree burglaries where you're entering somebody's home to take something, assaults causing great bodily injury, like I told you, assaults on a cop. These offenses, by any stretch of the imagination, are dangerous. They're threats to public safety. They're nonetheless eligible for Prop 47 because they haven't committed those super strikes. And I think it was a misnomer during the campaign, and it continues to be. There are a lot of lack of understanding. The folks who may be eligible for Prop 47 this time for this particular offense, they do have violent past criminal records. I would say the vast majority of them are. My experience, personal experience to date going through all these petitions is probably close to 90% have a violent criminal conviction in their past. So they're not just drug addicts.
Okay, let's go to drug court. You had told me that drug courts are pretty much eviscerated now.
Yeah, you lost your incentive. The drug courts are successful because of the carrot and stick approach.
And so the drug court was basically taking care of drug cases, like
felony drug cases.
Okay.
Felony drug cases, and you had an opportunity to avoid a conviction if you were successful. If you complete a drug court, which is an 18-month program, and it's rigorous. I'm not going to say it's not. There's reviews. If you mess up, you can be reinstated on it, but you may have to do some time in the county jail. But those who were successful, and there are some success stories, have stayed off of it, and they were forced to do it because of the fear of incarceration, or perhaps even a prison sentence. Once that's gone, and it becomes a misdemeanor, why should one go through the rigor of a drug court when they can just say, you know what, I'll plead guilty, take the misdemeanor. I know there's no room at the jail. And I don't want probation. I don't want search and seizure. I don't want any of that. And I'm not going to get any drug testing or treatment either. So they just the exact opposite of what you want.
So just take my lumps because the lumps aren't very hard.
Yeah. You've lost your incentive to.
So you took away in a way, tools that could help a person with a drug problem.
Tools that the system had been using, such as drug
because
courts.
now you don't have the incentive to stay out of prison and to go
there's still going to be a segment of the population that has no criminal record or very minimal criminal record that's going to want to keep their record clean, and they're still going to be interested in programs like Proposition 36, the drug treatment part of it, not the strikes, or deferred entry of judgment. So if they're successful, they can keep their record clean. But for most folks, they're not going to want to mess with that either. Just give me the misdemeanor, let me go on my way.
Okay. Has this been around long enough that we get an idea of, or do we have more people on the street now, or we have more people in Amador County Jail?
Oh, yeah.
Because of
We've
this,
got-
or where,
we've got
how's this
guys-
shaking out?
Well, I just looked at the petition the other day, actually, 2 of them, where they're serving time in county prison. They're eligible for Proposition 47. I've made that determination, and they've already served more time than they could get as a misdemeanor. So when they come back to court, that's credit for time served. You know, give them 1 year, give them 1 year credit, and that's it. So yeah, those folks will be released, and most of them, we sat down with the undersheriff the day after, a couple days after the election, and we identified the people that were incarcerated that were impacted by Proposition 47 or were potentially impacted, and those folks we dealt with first as a priority. What we're getting now is that second wave, the petitions for people that are on probation, that are on parole, that are in prison, state prison, that are serving out county prison sentences, or that are on a drug, either deferred entry of judgment or a drug treatment program.
Okay, now you work with other DAs, you know, and, as well. Is this harder on the bigger cities than it is up here?
Definitely. This is not a state mandate. That means that to sort through these things, I'm the Prop 47 unit at my office. But in LA, you got tens of thousands of cases that are impacted by this. They're not getting any extra money to deal with this. They're going to have to peel those people off from doing other matters and then form a Prop 47 unit just to deal with those cases. So yeah, in your larger counties, there's a major impact that'll last for up to 3 years, or in some cases
how is
longer.
that? I understand that impact there, but what about the impact of you know, more crime on the street, or more?
It's
more
really
crime?
early to say. Because we have to be tracking these kinds of things. This
So
is
you're
only-
mandated to track all this?
No,
and,
we're not
compile
mandated to track it,
statistics?
but it would behoove the DAs.
Is anyone doing that? I mean, you might be, but is anyone mandated to keep track of this and see how this goes? No. Okay, there's no accountability in that sense?
There's nobody that's tracking. We will get anecdotal examples that will come out. I can give you an example of somebody that was eligible that another attorney told me about. This guy was pending sentencing for 7 years, 4 months is what he was going to get. He had 12 prior strikes. The strikes consisted of robberies, first-degree burglaries, assaults causing great bodily injury. Because none of those strikes was a super strike, he's eligible for Prop 47 reduction. That felony is now a misdemeanor. That felony grand theft is a misdemeanor, and the worst that can happen to him is 1 year. That's credit for time served. That individual with the 12 strikes is out.
Do we have more things like that, and then we're going to have to go like as burglaries here in Amador County? Has that gone up at all? Has anybody seen things like that?
Again, we get our the FBI Unified Crime Reports, and annually we get from the Department of Justice, and we're between. We don't have a measure yet.
Okay.
We're going to have to measure that at the end of the calendar year, and then compare it to the previous years, and then we can take a look at what could have influenced that, such as Prop 47, such as Prop 36, such as a realignment. I think that those are all things that have impacted or could impact and increase, particularly property crime.
Okay. Todd, thanks for coming by, and boy, there's a lot to sift through, that's for sure. Stick around, there's more coming up on TSPN. I want to thank you for joining our newscast for today.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.